One. Hello and welcome to Ric Rambles On, episode number 4. Okay, I'll get it right. I got a new host here, a new guest that I've known for like forever. Fact is, he's the one that whenever my wife's not around, I go and tell us, he's the one that I blame for getting me into podcasting.
Oh,
But you want to introduce yourself and some of the stuff.
my name is Bruce Rosenberger. I'm I like to draw small press comics. I'm no great shakes or anything, but I do we do a comic book called Dutchy Digest, which is about Pennsylvania Dutch farm boy. Amos Dingeldorfer, who kind of solves all the local mysteries. And I'd like to say I do a lot of the work, but I just draw the pictures. Steve does all the work. He writes the story, he even does layouts for me. Not that I follow them, but
Now, one of the things is, what we're talking here is you've been to like the space,
Yes.
small. See, what is it? Okay, what's the
Small
thing?
Press Alternative Comics Expo.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's nothing but really alternate comics.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a lot of DC. You don't have any DC and Marvel there, probably.
No. I mean, there's a lot of us that go there year after year, and we're people that enjoy making comics. So we're there just mostly to trade. I mean, I bring you my book, you give me one or two a year. You know what I mean? It's just just a weird thing like that. Now there are people there also who they're looking to become, bigger time comics artists,
Right.
which is fine. A lot of them are real nice people and everything. Some are very business-like, which is, but I mean, I've made so many friends over the years there. I just so look forward to going to that convention. It really killed me that, we couldn't go last year. Then it was rescheduled for, I think it was June this year.
Okay.
Then that got rescheduled for November. And just recently, Bob said, "Look, you know what? We're gonna have to cancel it out again." Which I totally understand. I mean, I was even thinking, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go.
Now,
I've had the shot and everything, but they're shots, I should say. But
well, we discussed before the show. You've been going to this convention for about 20 years now.
I'm pretty sure the first one was 2002. I had like some of the books that they give you when you come in. Bob Corby puts these together. There's some advertising, there's some free stuff in there. There's the floor layout and everything. This one's 2012, and I think this one might be newer. It's hard to tell from the cover because it's
Right.
a little artsy thing. But yeah, I don't see a date on this one. But anyway, yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's 2002. So it's almost 20 years.
Right. Now you're showing like regular size comics. Now comics like your Dusty Digest are a lot smaller.
Oh, and I just wanted to show off all my badges from, it's not all space, but there's a lot of different space convention badges here. I usually just come home and I hook them up on top of one of the books here. I just had taken them down because I was redoing my bookshelves a little bit, but there's my space. Weekend Pass. I don't know what year it is.
Now, where can people find this convention at?
It is in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Information on it. Oh, you got me there. I should have looked that up, but I'll get information. And I do know that Bob Corby, Corby, has a Facebook page, and he does talk about whatever's going on in the show. He runs the show. He does it out of his good heart. He gives us all a place to show off our books and get to hang out with people who have the same crazy hobbies as they do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's out there. Take a drink out of my little mug here. So, good there. Okay. But like I said, do you have one of your Dutch Digest handy?
Oh yeah.
Show the difference in sizes here.
It's digest size. It's a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper folded in half. This is issue number 5 from 2011.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how many issues you got up to now?
I wanted to look that up and I forgot. I think it's 12. I think we're
12?
working on 13 now.
Okay.
And we had always talked about when we got to 12, we were going to publish a book, of the first 12 issues.
Uh-huh.
Haven't done so yet, but oh my gosh, here's my my old mini comic I did back in 1983.
Oh, is it Philly or Funny Book? Okay.
Yep, funny book. It's got Space Mouse, Lost Worlds, and Tree Man. And if you recall, there was a time when I was doing a Tree Man story on Facebook, probably on one of
Oh,
the little groups. I got a memory like a sieve anymore.
yeah, I
So.
kind of remember seeing some of those right there. And well, a quick aside right there. I was kind of teasing you earlier. Hey, you're the one that got me into podcasting. About 20 years ago, when we were on the Yahoo groups, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It changed so many different times. The name of it. But
Yes.
was it Kirby Comics that you? What's the name of it? I know you did. It's Kirby Cast, wasn't it?
Mine was
I'm talking about the one that was on the group when you started.
yeah, Kirby something. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you
Remember?
did about a dozen episodes, just a few minutes apiece.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what got me into it. And you was actually one of the first guests on Comic Geek Speak, if I remember right. You
Well,
was
yeah,
on,
yeah, I've been friends with those guys for years and years. They don't live too far from here, so whenever there was a convention or something, I'd go and get together with those guys. They were fun to hang out with.
yeah, they nicknamed you the Godfather of podcasting.
That's a nice way to say I was the old guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I just tease you and just call you the grandfather of podcasting. But
Yeah.
the thing is like that, I kind of call you the expert, well, at least to me, like the old comic, small press comics, comic strips, which I mean, you're the one that got me in. I've always been into comic strips, but you introduced me to some comic strips that I never knew existed.
It's funny you say that. I just recently, just as a lark, I went on one of the sites online that you can get old newspapers from, and I searched for Charles Adams, and lo and behold, he did a comic panel called Out of This World for about 2 years, 1955 to 1957. And I started, sharing those, and then I get this email from a fella who's like a big expert on Charles Adams, and he says, "Hey," he says, "I want to, I want to give you credit for, some of these the cartoons when I share them and everything." He says, "So what do I, what do I call you?" And I said, "Just Bruce Rosenberger, stripper." Oh, okay. And I think he got it, I cut out comic strips and all, but that's my stupid joke.
Yeah, I can see some people kind of mistake, that little nickname.
Good.
But I think, you introduced me to a lot of old comic strips that some of them only lasted a few months sometimes, or
It could happen, yeah.
sometimes several years. I'm trying to think of Well, there was one comic strip I remember growing up on, and it was called Henry.
Hmm.
The bald-headed kid that never
Hmm.
spoke.
Right, right.
Do you have any clue about the timeline? It was, I know it was in the 70s, early 70s or
What,
late
Henry?
60s. Yeah, Henry, was it like
Oh
late
my gosh,
60s,
I think it might have started back in the 40s.
40s? Okay.
I won't swear at anything. I'd have to look it up on Wikipedia, to make sure. But um, it's, I mean, it's not one that I'm sharing. I do. We have a group on Google. It's called Daily Dose,
Right.
and every day I followed somebody else was doing this. They were doing the same date, but however many years ago. So
Yeah.
I started back in a few years back, 1950, with the 1952 comics, and I just picked a bunch of them that I liked. And then the next year I did a few more, and the
Mhm.
next year I did a few more. And so right now I'm doing 6 days a week. I'm sending out 48 comics,
Mm.
daily comic strips. It takes me about 2 hours a day to, to strip them out and save them and put them in I don't put them in an email. I actually put them over at the I Love Comics archive in a folder, and then I just send the link, and then they can just download them or read them or whatever they feel like.
Right.
But
Yeah. Like I said, plus you got really one of my favorite comic strips going, Gasoline Alley.
oh yeah.
Now, if you look
Oh,
over my right shoulder, you can see Uncle Walt back there.
oh yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, I didn't even realize.
I've had him, that's here lithograph for about 20 years now.
Oh,
I keep
that
on
is
saying I need to get me a better frame and everything, but never have yet.
that is a classic strip. Actually, I probably would have thought of doing that, but when we started, there was still some books in print. And
Right,
I figured, well, if they're already collected, let me collect something that's
right.
why I went for the mid 50s, because I figured that's when, like a lot of the books that collect comics, they really, they kind of die out by then. I
Yeah,
mean, Dick Tracy made it into up to 1960 or so with the reprint books, but, eventually I think the sales just died off because people were looking for the 40s. But,
yeah.
so yeah, they, Gasoline Alley. There's one fella on our group that does share those. He's doing 2 different years. I think he's doing something in the 60s and something in the 50s. So,
I was reading quite a few of them, you know, back before my coma and stuff like that. And I was finding out, the stuff in the 60s, 70s, and 80s of Gasoline Alley was
mhm,
some of the better ones. I mean, the more recent ones, they kind of leave a little to, they're not as good as what they used to be.
right.
You'll have a storyline that would last you just say like 6 weeks or whatever,
Mhm.
or I don't know how long it's. I knew it one time, but not anymore. But they'd have a storyline. It would last so long, then they'd cut it off. It's like, there's more to the story.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, well, that's the problem sometimes. People start sharing them and then they stop. And,
yeah,
but well, it's funny too because you mentioned, the different kinds of things that you just stumble upon. I have a couple of friends that are on the group that like I don't know what to call them. The girly strips, where they're always being sexy poses and
yeah.
picking on their
Good
boyfriends for
your
being
art
cheap or
type.
whatever. Well, one day I found a comic strip called Bobby Socks. And I started clipping them and sharing them. I thought I'd try it for just a little while, only to find out that the person that did the strip, Marty Lynx, was a woman. So here's this strip about teenage girl and her boyfriend and all this, and they're by a woman, and they're fascinating. I love them because it's an angle you didn't see back in those
Right.
days very often. So those are a lot of fun. Yeah, just so many good comic strips and so little time.
Yeah.
I think I clipped over 15,000 last
Mm.
year, and I'm probably aiming for about the same this year. So I feel pretty good about that.
There you go. I mean, Did you have some people actually go and ask for your permission or want to use some of the art, some of the stuff that you clipped out for a book?
Oh, yeah, yeah. People, ask if they. I mean, that's what I do it for.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind if they mention my name and say, hey, this guy. But then again, like a lot of them might be worried that they don't want to if they get shut down or whatever
Yeah.
for sharing something that maybe shouldn't. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know what the rules are, what years, what strip, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe they're just trying to be nice about that. And I'm sure there's people that, hey, look what I got, and not mentioning that somebody else did all the work. But I think in most cases, people are just thrilled to share this stuff.
Well, I mean, there's so many strips out there that only lasted, like I said before, sometimes just a few months or sometimes just a few weeks. Uh,
And
and
or they would kind of go off on a different tack. I mean, when I was a kid, my mom used to always have the ladies magazines, Good Housekeeping,
yeah,
and I can't remember all the names of them, but she'd get several of them, and I'd go through them, and I'd read the comics. That's what I loved. I loved the panel cartoons that they had in all the issues. And oh, sidetrack.
okay.
One day, my brother, who was 2 years younger than me, one year for Christmas, he got my dad a subscription to Playboy.
Uh,
My dad was no dummy. He knew my brother got it, But some friends came over, my parents' friends came over one day, and they saw me flipping through an issue of Playboy. They said, Bruce or George, should Bruce be reading those? And he says, don't worry about it. He says, Bruce mostly is just looking at the comics. And honestly and truthfully, I mean, I might have taken a look at some of the gals, but
yeah,
the
that's like the
comics,
way of the good stuff, right?
yeah, but but anyway, the ones my mom used to get, one of the things I used to love was the Berenstain family.
Oh, yeah.
And the Berenstains, of course, are famous for the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah.
They've got a ton of books. Oh my gosh, the Berenstain Bears books. But they also did comics about about the family and that kind of thing. And just recently I discovered one called Sister. And Sister is
Oh.
about a little girl and all the trouble she gets into at home. So
Now, what was the name of that one that had the little boy? Starts with a D, Donnie. Yeah, little Donnie or something like that.
Dondi?
What I'm talking about?
Yeah. He was from overseas, and
Yeah, he was sort of like a orphan, from
yeah.
maybe Italy or
Yeah, I think it was Dondi, Dondi, right?
Dottie or something like Dondi,
Dondi.
Doend. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just remember, I think it was your group that introduced me to it, and like, okay, then I picked up a few uh reprint stuff.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he went on for what, at least 30 or 40 years.
Oh my gosh. For all I know, he may still be going.
Um,
I doubt it. I don't
yeah,
think that's what it is. But well, some of my reprint books are behind me.
yeah.
And I got shelves and shelves of them upstairs in the attic that, I wish I had them all digitally, and then I could just, get rid of all this stuff. And, my kids, my kids have basically told me, Dad, someday when we have to clean this house out, this stuff's just going out to the curb. I said, no, there's some of these books are worth money. And then my
Oh,
my
yeah.
son said to me, he said, we were just kidding, Dad. We realize it's worth money, and we'll.
I mean, like I said, I got tons of stuff that's, yeah, it cost me an arm and a leg to get it. And my wife, she'll say the same thing. Yeah. Something happens to me, she'll probably get a hold of some people that are into the thing like yourself or a couple friends of mine.
Yeah.
Like here, here's Rick's collection.
What
Some
do
of
you?
that stuff, is I'm gonna say right now, majority of my stuff is stuff that's not really worth a lot of money. It's where, yeah, this is sentimental value
Yeah.
and just the enjoyment of it.
Yeah. I mean, really, those of us that love comics and everything, when did we ever buy something as an investment?
And really,
Maybe that one time that you heard that that new Batman issue or whatever, came out in a
Oh,
plastic bag. I might have bought a few copies of that, quite frankly, because I worked at a
yeah,
comic shop and everybody was looking for it. So,
yeah. Legends of the Dark Knight.
is that what it was?
One. It had 4 different covers. And I
Yes.
know right now, my mom and I, bought 100 copies of number one.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't know it's going to be 4 different covers.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was working at a comic shop at the time. And, after a while, the shop sold out. We sold out at the shop. And what's kind of funny is my mom had them, out there. My mom had 50 copies. I had 50. And we was putting them out for $5 a piece. That, late 80s, thereabouts.
Mhm.
And sold, I don't know how many, quite a few that way. And
Wow.
sold some of mine over I still have about like 20 copies of the number one. And, if you look at the price right now, it's probably gone maybe $5.
Yeah. Yeah, but for a while there,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, exactly. I keep on telling people, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's comic strips, paperbacks, comics,
Mhm.
as if it's older, yes, it's worthwhile get money and investing. But the newer stuff, no, you can pick it up, big old, barrel full and get it for practically nothing. And, if it's something super hot, you want to make some money. If it's hot, sell it right then
Yeah.
because 2 weeks later, it's not a good example. That's why I call it Ric Rambles On here. Uh, remember the comic The Sixth Gun? It came out a few years ago, and the thing is, I mean, I happened to went to the shop, and the guy was mentioning that The Sixth Gun was super hot, and because they're going to come out with a TV series or a movie.
Oh, okay.
And I said, "Well, I got the series. Are you interested?" Yeah. He was really offering some money, and I just, dumb me. I waited a couple of weeks,
Oh
came
no.
back, and they found out that the movie or TV series flopped. They wasn't going to do it, so the interest in it, went down.
Yeah.
You know, oh well, I didn't have that much money tied in it, so no big deal. But
Yeah.
I've seen so many people spend big money on stuff, go crazy. Like go talk about you remember the first Batman with Michael Keaton? They had the movie.
Hmm.
They had a comic in DC Comics back in the '70s called The Joker. It lasted 9 issues, and I mean it was decent art, decent story, nothing major. And I had quite a few copies of number one, and I put a half a dozen. That's when I was working at the shop. I put a half a dozen of the copies out for sale for like $1 a piece, and the rest of them I just put it back in storage. And remember the comic buyer's guy
Hmm.
back when it was good in the like a newspaper size.
Yeah.
I would read those things cover to cover and seeing ads, and people was buying that thing for several dollars, stuff like that, 30 or 40 or $50.
Yeah.
And I remember, I had a few customers come in. And I just say, if you're looking for an investment, buy Joker number one right now. Wait 6 months and then sell it.
Hmm.
And sure enough, they did. They made money. But the thing is that it's not worth the money that they have priced on it.
No.
I
No.
mean, I just use it for an example there. I mean, yes, it's still up there. I don't know how much it is nowadays, but more than it's worth. Sorry to say,
Yeah.
but
But it doesn't sell.
but like like comic strips, same way. I mean, the thing is about comic strips is they're harder to get a hold of.
Hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff, were if when we was getting the newspapers, the comic strips to them, not every newspaper had every comic.
Right. Right.
I remember growing up, and I was a fan of Steve Canyon,
Hmm.
and I remember through the early '70s and stuff. I was reading them, enjoying and stuff. Then that was in South Missouri, and we moved. The other town never had them,
Uh,
and now I picked up. Now they're reprinting them all. I have like a collection that I bought at from my eBay one time that had the actual comic strips in them that they kind of, I guess, glued to a little book from the very beginning of Steve Canyon, very first one for like the first year or so. Like, okay,
I might have that.
well, listen here. I'm talking about a homemade one.
Oh, oh, okay.
Scrap paper, scrapbook type, and they cut the strips out and
Oh,
put it in there.
oh, okay.
Now I've seen others where I have to, where they reprinted the comic strips in a kind of a magazine style slip cover, and then they reprinted it again. And from what I understand, they have a hardback which has several years in it. They're about so thick.
Hmm.
You probably have almost.
That's probably what I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which we have better quality and stuff. And that just, as like I said, I got like two different style. It's actually three of the original stories. And like one is the what is the name of that one comic magazine that reprinted comic strips in black and white and kind of cut it. Oh, you probably know what I'm talking, but they did
Is it
that.
newspaper size?
Well, it's got it not quite. I mean, it was stiff covers,
Oh, no. Okay.
stuff like that. And inside they put like a week's worth of the dailies, and I think I cut the Sundays in half or something
Okay.
like that. I mean, I haven't looked at it in years. Then later on, they had another one, which is like a magazine site from Checker, I believe.
Okay.
And then they also did later, a few years ago, they did the thick hardback. So,
Did
I
you ever
mean,
get the Menominee Falls Gazette?
I had the Guardian.
Oh, oh, that's right. There was two of them. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, the Gazette was, they reprinted all the action stuff.
Okay.
The Guardian reprinted stuff, like maybe Popeye or Blondie or something like that.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay. Well, the Gazette one is the one everybody wants.
Oh, speaking of Popeye, well, speaking of Thimble Theater, because Popeye
Oh,
didn't show up for 10 years, um, I years ago from the cartoon museum out in San Francisco, I think it was, he sold me photocopies of the very first year of Thimble Theater. It was the end of 1919. It was like January 16th, 1919, all the way through 1920. I
mhm.
paid a good deal of money for that, but I photocopied them and I shared them with my group. And then recently, and I found newspapers, from 1925 or years later, but I couldn't find 1921. Well, recently I found a newspaper that had the 1921 strips in it, so I've been sharing those on my group.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
It's
cool.
just so funny because Popeye's not in it. In the early days, he was a terrible writer, but over a period of time,
Oh, yeah.
he developed that those long running stories, and made himself famous and got rich almost, and then he died.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
Bob Seger, when it was the guy's name who wrote it or created Segar, the guy's name, I believe, is the one who created. Because I do have like the hardback that reprints, the beginnings of Popeye.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, I
I've
have,
got a couple different editions of that.
yeah, I got the great big old tall one.
Yeah.
It's hardback, and I don't know, about 50 or 60 or $75 or something. high price. I remember buying it at Hastings Books, and they had it as a closeout, like
Mhm.
$10.
Oh, wow.
And that's one of the several books I have sitting here that says "Read Me,"
Yeah,
but I haven't. But
I know the feeling.
yeah,
I hit a point someplace where I couldn't keep up with with the number of books that I bought.
oh yeah,
And my kids pick on me all the time. They said, "Dad, have you read all these books?" And I'm like, "No." "Oh, you probably read like 10% of them." I said, "No, I've read a hell of a lot more than that." But
the thing is, the way I see it is when I had the, I'm glad when I had the money to buy this stuff, and I picked up a lot of this stuff, very cheap,
Mhm.
and I have a huge collection. I mean, I have a storage shed packed full of books and stuff. But now, yeah, I'm lucky to be able to buy a book. Or
Well, now, now I get Kindle editions. I've got over 800 books in Kindle editions, and you know what? Nobody knows about it but me. Well, no, you do, but I don't get picked on for those.
and all the millions and millions of subscribers. But, well, I'm really enjoying what we're, what our little talk, but it's getting down to the day that, how much time I don't have much left time wise. But I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thanks. It
And
was fun.
oh yeah, I mean we ought to do this more often. Uh, like I said, you're what I consider my expert when it comes to the comic strips.
That's scary.
Yeah, well the thing is, I mean you know more, and just like people look at me and I think, oh yeah, I'm the expert on comic books and stuff because I know more. But the thing is, there's people who know a whole lot more than I do.
Hey, we're a team. We're the accumulators.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's time for me to insert my little commercial before we end it. For anybody who wants to go and comment or send me stuff or send me, little messages or some knowledge on there, they can do it to my email, which is rick.croxton. That's RIC period CROXTON at gmail.com. And that's also the name I go under for PayPal. If you want to help out for, little things, because every dollar I get, given to me through PayPal, I would be spending it on this show. And that is easily a full-time job. As just trying to keep up with stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you again. And
Anytime.
all right, well, I guess we'll just be rambling on. Talk to you guys later. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Let's stop. Yeah, there.
Get
In,
it?
I'm hoping so. In meeting for all. Okay, this might cut us off here.
Okay.